Let's take a look at the fundamental triangle finish and really go into detail with how we're going to catch our submission. Okay, we'll take a look at lots of ways to get to the triangle, but assume we're in the basic triangle here. From this basic triangle situation, what we're looking to do is first and foremost get this arm across. There are reasons to not get it across we'll talk about later, but what I like to do is lift my hips all the way, use my cross arm to pull it across, and then immediately grab Stephan's head. Now I'm going to switch and hold his head with my other hand. That frees this hand up to grab my shin, which allows me to put my foot on his hip. If I ever just do this, there's nothing really holding my shin down. So even though I have his head, if he tries to posture up, I may lose that. So I like to double up by having the shin as well. Having the shin frees this foot up not only to go to the hip, but to help me rotate and even go to the ground here. Now, instead of just using the foot to rotate, I use the hand under his leg, what I call a third arm, to help me reach inside his leg, help pull me towards him, and then now we've got a good angle to finish our triangle. One really important detail though, is as we get this angle, inevitably when I change angles, I create a little bit of a gap inside my knee here. So I need to take that away. From the shin, I'm going to switch back to Stephan's head, and the basic version of this is I'm going to straighten this leg, push into his neck with the inside of my knee, and now reclamp. Now, I bring that second leg on top, flex both feet, bring my heels to my butt, and lift my hips as I pull down on his head. So again, from a different angle. We enter the triangle. Now we need to pull this arm across. We lift our hips, cross arm pulls it across. The inside arm is free to hold the head. And now we switch back to the outside arm in order to control the head and free this hand to grab the shin. Now foot can come to the hip because the posture is kept down by this shin. We reach inside the leg for the third arm, and notice how I reach inside and then turn the palm towards me in order to help pull myself towards that knee. Foot comes to the ground and we rotate all the way 90 degrees. Now, from here, inevitably we've created space by rotating, so we're going to switch to the head, straighten this leg, and pull in while we kind of push into Stephan's neck here. Regrab, second leg on top, flex both feet, heels to the butt, pull down on the head and lift the hips here.
So that's a lot of steps, Elliot. But from my perspective, what you're doing, there's never ever a time that my head can come up. So I can't make posture, and I think a lot of your gripping is to prevent that posturing while you're doing all the little adjustments.
Exactly, and it's exactly the prevention of them lifting up. The reason we're so specific about that hand placement is because I don't want you to be able to lift up. We have answers for when the person does posture. We want to avoid that situation. It's a lot easier to finish you if I keep you down. So it seems like a lot of steps, but it actually comes very natural with a lot of drilling. So let's actually look at even more detail. So one more time, we've entered the triangle. First things first, why am I using this cross arm? Why am I lifting my hips? If Stephan had all his weight on his knees or on his hips here, and he had no weight on this elbow, then yeah, it'd be super easy to pull that across. But if he puts weight on that elbow, now it's very difficult. This is why I lift the hips, because now it doesn't matter how much weight he's got on that elbow, he can't keep that elbow to the ground, and it's very hard for him to stop me from pulling across. Most people do this? Why don't I use two hands? I want this hand free to grab his head as soon as possible, and this grip at the tricep is all you need. It's a very, very powerful grip. So hips lift a little extra, I pull across, this hand comes to his head. So you'll notice from this point on, posture is always controlled. I switch, and now I grab the shin. Foot comes to the hip, I rotate. I go under the leg, I rotate further, and now I want to open this leg up in order to take away that space. So I have to switch here. Notice my forearm is actually giving a little bit of a bend in Stephan's neck, which gives a little extra control until I'm able to grab the back of his head. Now, I straighten this leg and I pull with my hand as I kick in to rebite. Now, very, very important, particularly if you have long legs, you're a very long-legged person, what's going to happen? Your knee is going to be up here and the inside of your knee will be up here. There won't be any pressure on their neck. How do we get rid of that? I'm going to bring this leg to the outside of Stephan's shoulder and I'm going to straighten both legs and scissor strong here. That forces his neck up and into the back of my knee. Now I bite, second leg comes up on top, and a few other steps that I like to add. I grab the outside of my foot, I adjust, not only getting the foot or the shin inside this knee, but I'll also bring this knee inwards towards the other knee. Here.
That really amplified the pressure there.
Yes. So if you do everything perfectly, they'll be tapping before you have to add your hips in. But inevitably, if they're resisting, they're going to make it difficult for you to get all those steps perfect. So we're here. We got our angle. Again, the tall person detail everyone can use, but it's really important if you have particularly long legs or a particularly small opponent. From here, we switch from shin to head. We straighten both legs, scissor, lock up, hold, adjust, tighten that triangle by bringing the knee inside. And notice, this is very important for me on triangles and arm bars. I flex both feet. Now I bring my heels to my butt, I pull down on his head, and I lift my hips here. Quite strong, yeah?
Very strong.
Yeah. So basic triangle, fundamental details, but for me this has made a big, big difference in my triangle finish. Now that you understand the basic triangle details, there's one more detail that is a little subtle but can add a ton of power to your game. So we're here, we get everything in spot, we start changing angles here. Now, when I'm locking this down, I'll loosen the triangle just so it's not so intense. Instead of just pulling your heels to your butt, you can add a lot more pressure by doing this motion with your right leg or your outside leg. Here. So if everything else is strong, as you add the pressure, it ends up torquing and putting a lot of extra pressure on that choking leg. So just one additional way you can add extreme pressure to your triangle.